I have tried to record this a few times now, and there's a communication that wants to come out. And it's important because things are very noisy right now, and this can get confusing and mislead one into thinking that the direction has suddenly changed. It hasn't. And a truth that I'm reminded of this morning is, as within, so without. And so this means that if you have been preparing and upgrading and transforming inside, if you have witnessed this happening to you, through some joy, through some pain, through confusion, then recognize the nature of the version of this happening on the outside of you, around you. The physical manifestation, the corresponding manifestation of these internal events. Just as some of these things inside of us have been really difficult to draw out, you've done so with courage. You've done so with courage. And however painful, you were able to recognize that these are necessary changes, necessary deaths, a necessary willingness to let go. And just as you couldn't control the timing of this process, as within, so without. As things appear is how they are. And so I'm not going to tell you that what's happening around you is not reflecting what's happening inside of you. But I'm also not going to tell you that any of this is negative. I'm here to remind you that it's very positive. These things that are changing outside are things that if you had the option to change them yourself, you wouldn't. And so it's your support system that is moving things around. And I want to take you back a little bit to remind you that the reason you even went through this whole internal transformation to learn how supported you are, this thinning of the veil to allow the conversations to move through to you more freely and more clearly, is so that now that it really matters, you remember that it's still there. You remember that that support is there. I've been leaning into the wisdom of death this morning. And I'm reminded that, I suppose for observers, it can be a scary process, an ugly process. It's not pretty. But it's still a necessary part of the process in order for new life to happen, to come to pass. And I'm also here to remind you that the observer has a different experience to the one who's dying. Peace and trust have never been so important. The reason I say this is because this is what I want to call the climax of your manifestations. It's like the climaxing moment of the process you've been going through of manifestation. I suppose it's just like that, like death. Like the actual dying of the human is like the biggest death in your life. It's the most life-changing. And this is the message I have here, is that what's actually happening, so these things that are collapsing, and perhaps they're not actually collapsing, you actually do not know what death looks like on the other side. Perhaps you've been told. Perhaps the narrative is what's scaring you. The point here is that you're being asked to accept that you have no control over these things, the timing and the outcome, but that they have your favor as a priority. I was taken to the Bible, to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, which is titled A Letter to the Exiles. And I might lean more into what it actually says, but I want to rather share this wisdom with you, because that's where I got stuck. I got stuck in the Bible when I was trying to, record this and get this message out, because the contents of this letter are what is crucial. For I know the plans I have for you. The journey to peace it's a rough road. The journey to peace is a rough road. And various, I'd say, negative emotions come up as we move along and learn about the journey to peace. The journey to peace is what is crucial. It is what is important when we are talking about manifestation. As soon as you move out of peace, you are changing the vibration of your creation. And so this is not to scare you, but it's to reassure you that certain processes, certain experiences, difficult experiences are needed to strengthen you, to fortify you, so that you can be in peace more. So that you can learn how to find peace and how to return to peace under any circumstances. You cannot learn this. You cannot learn how to stay in peace unless you learn how to deal with it and find it and regain it under difficult circumstances. I'm being careful about how I say this so that it doesn't sound like I'm saying you should invite these difficult experiences. All I'm saying, all I'm asking is, how would you learn to keep your peace unless you'd been through the test? And so this particular test feels like I'm describing the final exam, the unavoidable one, the one you have to pass, the one you're going to pass, the one you're going to pass. I have to go to Jeremiah. Okay. So I have 7:21:21. Immediately when I saw 7, that spoke to me about divine timing. And when I saw 21:21, I saw 3 threes of 7s. So this is the waiting for something to come in. This is the stabilization of the vision happening in divine timing. I shuffled cards a little bit as well earlier, and I saw the Magician and the Ace of Pentacles, which immediately reminded me that this is about manifestation and this is about an opportunity. How it appears is how it is, but do not be fooled by the circumstances. So the letter to the exiles. This story, this part of the Bible is told very soon after the Jewish people are exiled into Babylon from Jerusalem by a king called Nebuchadnezzar. I had to Google how to pronounce that. This is the longest reigning king of the Neo-Babylonian mark, also the most powerful. I researched this king. And I researched the symbolism of Babylon. It says here in the Bible, Babylon is a symbol of sin, rebellion, and the Antichrist's evil world system. It is also a metaphor for the opposition to God's rule and the exile of God's people. And so the king reads this letter out to the Jewish people. This letter written by Jeremiah the prophet. And I'm starting to experience glitches again as I try to get through this letter, like the contents of the letter. This has been happening to me for about an hour. And another thing I ask myself is, why did the king read this letter out to the Jewish people? Why did he read this letter to them? Just because I'm struggling to get through this, I invite you to go read it. You can even just Google it. But essentially, this letter says, settle down in Babylon. As Babylon prospers, so shall you. There are reassurances as well from God that the Jewish people have not been forsaken. Okay, it says, for thus says the Lord, after 70 years are completed at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word toward you, and cause you to return to this place. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and go and pray to me, and I will listen to you. And you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. I will be found by you, says the Lord, and I will bring you back from your captivity. I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places where I have driven you, says the Lord, and I will bring you to the place from which I cause you to be carried away captive. This verse speaks to me about coming back to peace, that certain things cannot be bypassed. So the 70 years speaks to the length of time you could expect on the journey to peace. And I'm not actually speaking to you about 70 years, and I'm not actually saying to you that this will take long. What I'm saying to you is that it cannot be bypassed, and to return to the present and have no expectation of what time will bring you. Focus on where you are. Focus on what's right in front of you. Focus on the things you were doing before you were dragged to this place. You've been dragged to this place to teach you how to find peace, because these manifestations, they are born in peace. And also to release life as you've known it. There are certain decisions you would never take for yourself. And so this is where your support team is at play, and your support team helps things to move around to make way for new life. And again, we don't know the outcome. We don't know the outcome, but we are open to it because we know what the promise in our heart says. I'm going to close this here, but I'm here to share peace with you. I'm here to remind you of what the process represents, what the events represent, and for you not to get sucked into the negativity. This is also why we are prepared from the inside before the outside. This is a huge advantage. When a process happens inside of you, it's private, it's protected. When a process happens outside of you, you need preparation because it's visible. It feels visible. But do not be fooled, because you know your plans. And when I say plans, I mean the promises. And I'm here to tell you that you are not alone. Because this type of experience can leave one feeling like they are alone. You are not alone. And this is your letter. And this is a reminder to you that to fear the future is irrational if the plans you have for yourself are big. Your fear of the future is irrational if the plans you have for yourself are big. Allow the process to happen. Allow what needs to happen to happen. Your plans are big. Your plans are bigger than what's happening now. That's how big. And my words are bold, but my words are true. The card I have here is decisions, higher self, confusion, quandary, ambivalence, juggling. You're faced with many choices and aren't sure what to do. Leave or stay in a job. Terminate or recommit to a relationship. Stop or continue a creative project. Go to work or stay at home with the kids. Life is an endless stream of choices, and doing what's best is never a simple thing. Fortunately, your higher self can help you resolve these difficult decisions, especially if you're willing to let some of the balls you juggle drop to the wayside for now. The key to making the best choices is to simply follow your heart and attend only to what you care about right now. Focus on priorities that feed your spirit, and don't become overwhelmed by the demands and expectation of others. Ask your higher self to help you discern and trust in what requires your attention right now, and be willing to disappoint people. Your higher self assures you that what falls to the wayside isn't important in the long run, despite the drama of the moment. The message for you is, don't try to be all things to all people. It's a waste of time, and you'll surely fail. I have a second card, card number 27, deceit, guardian angels, treachery, dishonesty, betrayal, exploitation. Your guardian angels are present, alerting you to the fact that all isn't as it appears. Something is off and you may be in danger. Pay close attention to what's going on around you, as well as what's going on within you. You'll soon notice that bad vibes are in the air. They signal that someone is potentially able to exploit or manipulate you in some way. So be on the alert and trust your vibes if things don't feel right. It's hard to believe, you say. That can't be. But your guardian angels remind you that treachery and deceit are subtle and difficult to see. After all, no one wants to believe that someone might hurt them. Sometimes it's a deliberate attempt to injure, but more often it's an act of self-protection at your expense. It may show up in your coworker's failure to inform you that the project deadline has changed, or your mother withholding the fact that your father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, or even your own neglect to tell your mate that you've overspent this month and can't pay the bills. Deceit and manipulation need not be maliciously intended to occur or to be damaging. Often, it's just the result of thoughtlessness or fear. Your guardian angels urge you to trust your vibes completely when it comes to your suspicions of others. Also, equally scrutinize your own deceptions. Either case leads to dead ends and disappointing outcomes. Ask your guardian angels to protect you from the deceit of others and your own temptation to deceive. Have the courage and integrity to be honest. Your guardian angel's message: we will watch over you. I feel like today's messages have been so serious. And quite simply, they are. But this message is intended to bring peace. This message is intended to confirm to you that you're not alone. And to acknowledge that when you're dealing with other people, and when you're dealing with other people, you cannot always be in control of things. And to not gaslight yourself if there's stuff that you see and feel as things are communicated to you, when you have this feeling that there's something else going on. And this doesn't mean you need to get to the bottom of it. This means don't gaslight yourself. Don't doubt that because you don't have evidence and because you don't have proof that your feelings are valid. And that you can return to what's in front of you. Because everything that helped you get to this point is not suddenly just dropping. It's still there. And also that this is part of the process. This is still part of the transformation. It is sometimes disappointing to realize that people don't stop collecting their karma. But we need karma. Karma has a light side and a dark side. We need karma, otherwise we also can't retrieve parts of ourselves that we want, that we need, that we desire. And sometimes the person sitting on the other side is a catalyst to your transformation. And so certainly this message was not to scare you. For me, these two cards definitely hold strong confirmations. Strong confirmations on what I feel to be a hunch. Actually, what I know, but that I have no proof of. Confirmation of that. And also confirmation of this message that was coming to me of returning to peace and returning to what's in front of me and returning to what I enjoy, and also not to clutch onto things that perhaps do not belong with me in the next season of my life, this season that I've been creating. And that sometimes gifts are not wrapped in pretty paper. Sometimes they are wrapped in a deceitful parcel. Wrapping. And so you're reminded that, again, this is not your first rodeo. Things are happening in your favor. And don't forget everything you know. God bless. And sending you love.